Okay, let's wrap up the dinim of Bishul, and we didn't learn all the dinim obviously, and in Mitzvah Shem next week we'll start another malacha. But yesterday we were discussing about washing oneself in warm water, cold water. So obviously to create hot water on Shabbos you're not allowed to, like we learned, even if you open the faucet, so cold water goes into the boiler, gets cooked, so you're not allowed to do that either. But if you have, let's say, prepared hot water from before, so then you're allowed to, you cannot wash your whole body. You can only wash your hands, face, feet, things like that. But you can't wash the majority of the body in hot water. Bottom line halacha is you can't wash even in cold water your entire body. And there's a few reasons for that. Number one, like we started discussing yesterday, I'm going to finish it up because there's details we didn't mention yesterday. When you wash your whole body, there's an issue of drying yourself, schita. We said hair is Vaad Rabbonim, there's a din of squeezing, even though the hairs don't absorb any water, but because there's a bunch of hair together, a cluster of hair together, it looks like it's schita, even though you're just squeezing out the hair, the water in between the hairs, not actually from the hairs. But nevertheless, it's forbidden. So therefore we learned that going to mikvah, in the Hasidic circles, they definitely are lenient going to the mikvah. In halacha, many opinions say you can only go to the mikvah on Shabbos if it's a cold mikvah. If it's a hot mikvah, you're not allowed to go into it on Shabbos. In the Hasidic world, they do go on the hot mikvah on Shabbos. But the truth is that even when you go into a hot mikvah on Shabbos, halachically, if you want to do what's right, you should only tovel right away. You shouldn't sit there and enjoy the hot water. Because then it's rechitzas kol gufi, it's not tefillah. It's not immersing in the mikvah. I'm not saying people don't do it, but l'chatchila in halacha, you can go into that water to table and you get out. But there's a number of other issues. So we were learning yesterday, also we mentioned that you're not allowed to swim on Shabbos. That's exerted chacham for a few reasons. Even in a pool, even definitely in a lake, in a river, in an ocean. But there's another issue you have to keep in mind. What happens if somebody lives in an apartment building and there's a public pool, and they want to go to Mikvah Shabbos morning? So there's a few issues. Number one, there's an issue of schita. So if you're going with the bathing suit, say you're not going to walk. You're going to go in with a bathing suit. That's what you would do, let's say. You're walking with a bathing suit, and underwater you take off your bathing suit, and then before you dunk, and then you put the bathing suit back on, and you go out of the water. Okay? It's fine, but it's not fine halachically. There's two problems with that. Number one, if a cotton bathing suit or material bathing suit, we learned already when we were learning the dinim of libun, of washing clothing on Shabbos, just putting water on a garment is also the union of washing, even if the garment is clean. So, what? You'll hear in a second. I'll tell you why. Because what happens if you have a vinyl tablecloth, plastic tablecloth, right? And there's a dirt spot, so you're allowed to pour water on it, and you can clean it up. You can't squeeze, but you can clean it up. But if it's on this fabric that everybody likes to make dirty with their coffee, right after they're washed, so then you can't put water on this on Shabbos. Okay, halacha is even if it's clean, you can't put water on it on Shabbos, because there must be some dirt there that's going to be cleaning. So number one, if you're going with a bathing suit, that's material, like cloth, so then number one, you're washing the bathing suit. You go into the water, you're washing the bathing suit. Secondly, when you put the bathing suit back on or you take it off, inevitably you're going to be squeezing water out of the bathing suit. The bathing suit is cotton, it's absorbent, and there's a lining inside the bathing suit. So number one, you have the problem of rechitza. It's also psikresha, for sure you're going to be squeezing the water out of the bathing suit. That's a big problem using a bathing suit. Then if you're in a lake or a river, you have even a bigger problem. Because a river and a lake have a din of a carmelis. A carmelis is a domain in between public and private. We'll learn one day the dinim of carrying. We'll get into those details. But bottom line is, a carmelis, you're only allowed to carry up to 4 amas. It's a rabbinic domain. Okay? But you're only allowed to carry up to 6 feet. So a river, a lake, an ocean have a din of a carmelis. So now, if I tevel, let's say, if you want to tevel in a river, it doesn't get deep that you can immerse in it unless you have to walk out a number of feet. Okay? So you're going to walk out a number of feet, and then you're going to tevel, then you're going to walk back. So you're going to be carrying water on your body. This is what halacha says. You're going to be carrying water on your body more than four amis, more than 6 feet. So then you're carrying in a carmelis, which would also, unless if it's in a eruv, like you have a camps, right? They make an eruv around the lake, so then it's not a problem of carrying. But you have the other issues of schita, and you have the other issues of libun, of cleaning the garments. Now what you could do is if you have a nylon bathing suit, nylon doesn't absorb, and you take out the lining, which is usually cotton, so now you have a non-absorbent material. It's like plastic and vinyl, that if you put water on it, you're not cleaning it, because there's nothing absorbed within, the water's not cleaning out anything that's absorbed within it. So then, technically, you would be allowed to use a bathing suit if it's a completely nylon or vinyl, whatever it is, basically not a cloth material. So then you would be allowed to, then you don't have the issue of rechitza. I mean, you don't have the issue of schita, you're not squeezing, and you don't have the issue of libun, of cleaning the garment, because those are materials, they're not cleanable. One.
2 questions. There's no issue with regards to the hair, it's Xer de Rabbana, right?
Yeah.
With the plastic, there's no issue with that at all either?
No.
Of schita?
No.
And then secondly, is there any issue with the Maris Ayin with regards to the bathing suit? Like if I go to a program and I'm wearing a plastic bathing suit, no one else knows it's plastic.
It's not necessarily marasayan. I mean, you could put up a big sign. I'm wearing a plastic or vinyl or bathing suit. It's not marasayan. Because people, you could tell that it's a vinyl, you could tell the material also. But as far as, what was the first thing you said? Schita is, okay, so again, if it's a very tight plastic, I'll give you an example. You're not allowed to use a sponge on Shabbos, right? But now they have these things to wash dishes that are metal or plastic. Now there's no schita on plastic or metal by itself. But if you have a metal one that's very tight, that when you go like this, or but it's very, not wool. Yeah, but it's actually metal. So then, if you get it wet and you go like this, so then water would come out of it. So even though it's not real schita, that's like hair, and that you couldn't use. But if you want to use, let's say, to clean dishes on Shabbos, a plastic, round things, whatever they call, I don't know what they call them. You know what I'm talking about? The plastic round things that are not tight together, so then there's no schita at all. Plastic doesn't. Steel wool is a problem because steel wool is very close together, and if you take a steel wool and you squeeze it out, the liquid's going to come out. So even though, again, it's only the liquid between the steel wool, but still, that's similar to hair that you wouldn't be allowed to. But if it's a loose plastic or something like that, then it wouldn't be a problem.
What about the second issue that you mentioned about carrying? Is there any way you can go like four steps or 4 hours and stop?
In a carmelis, if you walk 3 feet, stop, then you can walk another 3 feet, yeah. But again, the person has to be very aware of that and careful with it.
And the public?
And then you have another issue. Sometimes in the camps, again, if there's an area around, there's not a problem. But sometimes you have in a camp, you have a dock, okay, and you walk on the dock, and then they go where it's like the end of the dock, where the water is deep already, and they'll jump down, and then they'll jump back up. So they're not carrying the water 4 amas, right? But the problem is, you have to know what din the dock has. It's possible the dock might be a Rishus HaYachid. If the dock is a private domain, then you're not allowed to carry from a carmelis to a private domain either. So you have to be very careful. I'll give you an example just in a practical thing. You ever see, I mean, when kids are little, yeah? So you're walking in the street and then there's, not a ledge, but they're like, you know, kids like to walk on it. What is it called? Huh?
Stop
Like that thing over there. Okay. Whatever you call it, you got the point. Okay. So now.
What is it called? Say it again.
Again. Now. So now you're walking your kid in the street, and the kid says, "Hey, I want to walk on that thing." I'm not talking about an Erev now. There's no Erev, right? So you don't think, you just pick up the kid. You're not carrying the kid. You pick him up from the street and you put him onto this thing. And then he's walking. And then you take him down, right? That's what people do.
Yes.
Yeah. But the problem is, the street is either a Shusarabim or a Carmelis. That place, if it's Dalet Amis by Dalet Amis, no, and 10 Tvachim high, and 4 tvachim by 4 tvachim, then you have a Rosh Hashanah. So then you're carrying from a public domain to a private domain. So you couldn't do that, and then you're carrying again from the private domain back to the public domain, or even a company. People have to be aware of these carrying things. Anyway, but a regular mikvah on Shabbos, you have to be careful, but you have to be careful when you dry your hair.
Even if you don't walk, you can put him down and put him on.
It's still a private. If this thing would be in a public domain, let's say you would have this in the street, okay, and you put something, you're walking, okay, in the street, and you put something on top of this, you just carry it from a public domain to a private domain, because this has a din of a private domain. It's the 10 tvachim high, 4 tvachim by 4 tvachim. It has a din of a private domain. If it has a din of a private domain, you're carrying from public to private.
The whole thing is in public.
Doesn't matter. This thing in the public domain has a din of Rosh Hashanah. What?
There's no difference between picking up a live person and like an object?
There is a difference halachically between picking up a live person and an object, but that's if it's biblically forbidden or rabbinically forbidden. In other words, there's a rule in halacha. There's a rule in halacha. The Gemara says this. It's brought down all over the place. Hachai noisei satzmei. A living person carries himself. If anybody knows, there's a difference between picking up a living person or picking up a dead person. Chas v'shalom. That's called dead weight. Okay, if a person was 150 pounds, let's say, and he's alive, you can pick him up. But to pick up 150 pounds, you can't do it. So why can you pick up a living person that's 150, 200, whatever it is? Why can you pick them up physically? Because they're picking themselves up. So therefore, there's a din. If you carry somebody, a living person, that, by the way, that means a person who's able to walk. You carry a baby that's not walking yet, it's the same thing like not...
Like an object?
Like an object. What? Same thing. It's still lightweight, lighter weight than... Yeah, anyway, so in halacha it says that if somebody carries a living person, it's only asim with Rabbanon because achai noises atzmi. Basically the concept is that there's two people carrying the kid. The kid's carrying himself and you're carrying him. What? Yeah, if it's for fun, you could do it. Some people are not obligated to mitzvahs.
And if he's dead for fun,
you could do it. You could do it. Nobody else could. Anyway, so you have that issue, but it's still forbidden, even in a Carmelis, which is rabbinic forbidden. And what?
What will be the size of the dock? That would be Rosh Hashanah.
It has to have mechitzas 10 tefachim high. But you have to know how the dock is built. Yeah, but a lot of them are built with tzuras pesach. If you look at it, there's poles in the ground, and the thing on top of it could be a tzuras pesach.
If it's pension.
No, if it's...
If the pole doesn't come up high, then it's fine.
Again, you have to look at each one.
It's 10 tvachim from the water.
10 tvachim from the bottom of the water.
From the bottom of the water?
L'cheira. Certain dinim from the bottom of the water, certain dinim from the top of the water, like to carry onto a boat. It's not so simple to go from a dock into a water. If they're both Carmelis, then it's not a problem because you're going less than 4 amos. But if it's Rishus Yachad, then you have a problem. Because then you're carrying mamish from a Carmelist into Rishus. I mean, people should be aware. I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm just saying people have to be aware. It's not so simple. And the main thing is the bathing suits. You have Rechitza and Schita. Not Rechitza, I mean Libun and Schita. Could be it's Rishus Yachad. Machat Shin is an Amaisa, Ma'amach Beva Main Kim Shvlag Al Teiro.